Welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Yeshi. Here are the headlines. Indian Prime Minister holds bilateral talks with US, Japan and Australia on the sidelines of Quad Summit. Chopstick, a necessity and a sense of Japanese culture. And Hindu devotees in Nepal celebrate unique festival of worshipping little girls to ward off evil. Let's begin the show. While India reiterated its strong stance against terrorism and the threats South Asian region stares at during the Quad Summit and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address to the United Nations General Assembly, the recent PM visit to the United States also emphasized at strengthening bilateral ties with different countries and ensuring more FDI in India. The Prime Minister held a number of meetings with state leaders and top CEOs to deepen both camaraderie and cooperation. Have a look.
Nearly 8 months after the current US dispensation came to office, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi held wide-ranging talks with the US leadership. The two sides have committed to enhance their cooperation in fighting COVID-19 and securing democracies around the world. The meeting that came in the backdrop of an unfolding crisis in war-torn Afghanistan purportedly discussed the regional effects of what appears to be a Pak-backed devious plan. US Vice President Kamala Harris also welcomed India's decision to resume exports of the COVID-19 vaccine. India, the world's biggest maker of COVID vaccines, which has already inoculated over 850 million doses in the country, announced past week that it would resume vaccine exports later this year. India had earlier stopped exports in April to focus on inoculating its own population as infections exploded.
When India experienced a surge of COVID in the country, the United States was very proud to support India in its need and responsibility to vaccinate its people. And I welcome India's announcement that it will soon be able to resume vaccine exports. It is of particular note and admiration that India, I'm told, is currently vaccinating approximately 10 million people a day as of today.
The two sides acknowledge that their relationship has developed into a global strategic partnership. Regular exchange of high-level political visits has provided sustained momentum to bilateral cooperation. In past half-decade, the trade ties have picked an unprecedented pace with annual figures expected to reach $100 billion in near future. Both India and the US have shown an increased confidence in each other ever since they had a fallout with China in one or the other form. Apart from trade, India has also shown an upped interest in US defense products, and the purchases have grown significantly high in past few years. Modi said India and the US are natural partners having similar geopolitical interests, and the two countries were continuously increasing cooperation between them.
विश्व की सबसे बड़ी और सबसे पुरानी डेमोक्रेसीज के रूप में भारत और अमेरिका नेचुरल पार्टनर है। हमारे मूल्यों में समानता है, हमारे जियोपॉलिटिकल हितों में समानता है और हमारा तालमेल और सहयोग भी निरंतर बढ़ता जा रहा है।
Modi also met his Japanese and Australian counterparts Yoshihide Suga and Scott Morrison on the sidelines. While all of them are now members of the Quad grouping, New Delhi's bilateral camaraderie with both Japan and Australia has grown stronger in recent times. Modi also met chief executives of several US companies including Qualcomm and Blackstone. They discussed ongoing projects and further investment opportunities in India, including under the National Infrastructure Pipeline and National Monetization Pipeline.
We see a lot of activity right now because of the a necessity to geo-diversify and build a very resilient supply chain for semiconductors. We believe India could be an important destination, and if that infrastructure is available in India, we'll be very happy to partner with India.
While many global businesses have been thriving in India, many others have shifted their interest towards India, especially after the breakout of the pandemic. Last year, hundreds of them announced that they would be shifting their bases from China to India, providing a major boost not just to India's GDP and economy, but a confirmation to New Delhi's sustained efforts at making the Indian market more accessible and hospitable to foreign investors and manufacturers.
Moving on, while we have time and again highlighted the grim situation of Baloch and their struggle against Pakistan establishment, the other provinces barring Punjab haven't had a run of good fortunes either. Today we talk about Sindh, the most populated province of Pakistan, which is systematically discriminated against for it is predominantly inhabited by Mohajirs, the people who migrated to the region in 1947. Altaf Hussain, a renowned Sindhi leader who was forced to leave Pakistan owing to state crackdown, has urged people to revive the movement of freedom from Islamabad and unite in the face of despotic Pakistan.
Sindhis who have been subjugated and suppressed for decades will get their independence, and he will do anything to ensure that. The exiled Muttahida Qawmi movement leader Altaf Hussain has said in his periodic video address to the people of Sindh. His statements have come in the backdrop of a deteriorating economic and human rights situation in Sindh. The only obstacle he sees in attaining his goal of launching a massive anti-Pakistan drive is divisions within the Sindhi community, where one side are the Mohajirs, the people who travelled to Pakistan from India during partition in 1947 and settled there, and the Sindhis who are the original natives. Hussain blamed, though there is a civilian government in Pakistan, the fact is that the whole country is under the control of the army. He also called on Sindhis to unite for the freedom of Sindh from military occupation.
हम सिंधु देश की आजादी के लिए बड़ी से बड़ी कुर्बानी देने के लिए तैयार हैं। सिंध हमारी धरती है। सिंधियों, खुदा के वास्ते आप समझो, हम सिंध को आजाद कराएंगे। आप और हम मिलके मोहब्बत के साथ, जैसे 1947 के बाद सिंधी महाजिर मिलके रहते थे, सिंधियों ने बहुत मदद की, उसी तरह से मिलके रहेंगे। इसलिए अब लड़ाई नहीं होगी सिंधी और महाजिरों में कि सिंधु देश में कोई न जागीरदार होगा।
It's not that Pakistan is faring better at any economic indicator, but Sindhis are among those who are deliberately denied rights. From political ostracization to orchestrated obstacles keeping them at bay from the mainstream, the Sindhi nationalists have been targeted at all levels. They have been at the receiving end of state discrimination and repression. Their fundamental rights are restricted to official papers only. The freedom of speech is muzzled brutally, and the press, which is supposed to highlight human rights violations, operates at whims and fancies of political leaders and army generals. And all this has ended up in shattering all development indicators of the region. While Sindh is the most populated province of Pakistan, its GDP is not even half of Punjab. Educational sector is in shambles. Natives blame Islamabad for not meeting even their basic requirements, and the unemployment rate in the region is alarmingly high. Altaf Hussain and other Sindhi nationalists who are not ready to settle for anything less than a separate state called Sindhu Desh have urged people to unite against an authoritarian Islamabad.
ऐ सिंधियों, तुम साथ दो अल्ताफ हुसैन का तो बहुत अच्छा होगा, क्योंकि हम कितना ही लड़े, मुहाजिर और सिंधी, उर्दू स्पीकिंग सिंधी और सिंधी स्पीकिंग सिंधी, हमें लड़ के कत्ले आम के बाद बहुत जानी, हमें फिर मिलके बैठना होगा, क्योंकि हमारी अब कोई दोनों की सिंध के अलावा जमीन नहीं है, लिहाजा इत्तेहाद कर लो।
The grievances of both Sindhi and Muhajirs are largely directed at the Punjabis who dominate the bureaucracy and the armed forces. There is a common concern expressed by Sindhis and Muhajirs on several issues, including the lack of regional and provincial autonomy and continuous interference from Islamabad in the affairs of Sindh. Sindhis and Muhajirs also demand a ban on further settlements of Punjabis and Pakhtuns and insist that restrictions should be placed on the sale of properties and allotment of businesses to those not domiciled in the province. They also accuse the Pakistan Army of engineering the riots amongst Muhajirs and Sindhis to deepen the fault lines. Sindhi nationalists, however, have appealed to people to unite in order to strengthen their movement. And the current situation could just prove to be conducive for them as global eyes are on Pakistan, especially after its role in the return of Taliban in neighboring Afghanistan.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in our segment called Asia Watch.
Thousands of supporters of Yemen's Houthis rallied in Sana'a to celebrate the 7th anniversary of the ousting of the government as the group's fighters pushed through front lines in the oil-producing regions of the country. The crowd waved the red, white and black national colors and chanted slogans against Saudi Arabia, Israel and the United States. The Iran-aligned movement swept into the capital and most of the North Yemen in 2014 when they ousted the internationally recognized government of President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates intervened in the war in 2015 to try to restore Hadi's government to power, but the conflict has dragged on, killing tens of thousands and causing the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Samad, who held the post of president in the Houthi-controlled administration which runs most of the northern Yemen, was killed in April 2018 by a Saudi-led coalition airstrike in the port city of Hodeidah on Yemen's west coast. The Houthis executed 9 men recently following their conviction for involvement in his killing, causing a global outcry.
A group of Thai monks and volunteers decked out in personal protective equipment carefully navigate a golf cart pulling a trailer loaded with bags of fresh vegetables through bumpy roads as they head to a village on the outskirts of Bangkok. Their mission is to donate food and other necessities to vulnerable people whose livelihoods have been hit hard by the pandemic. The truck is fashioned after traditional Thai grocery carts which often roam the streets selling bags of goods dangling off the sides. Mong Ponchai Kapmali 28 came up with the idea a few months ago when he was handing out antigen coronavirus tests in the communities surrounding his temple, Wat Sirifong Thamanimit. He realized many people were unemployed and unable to feed their families. The monk's truck hits the streets every Sunday, making multiple trips requiring help from about half a dozen monks plus volunteers. Poncha estimates the truck reaches hundreds of people each day, potentially thousands in a month.
The Israeli forces have caught the last 2 of the 6 Palestinian militants who tunneled out of a maximum security Israeli jail nearly 2 weeks ago. in an escape that embarrassed Israel's security establishment but delighted Palestinians. They were remanded by an Israeli court later in the day. The two members of the Islamic Jihad militant group were apprehended before dawn from a house in the Palestinian city of Jenin in West Bank. Palestinians see members of armed groups jailed by Israel as heroes in the struggle for statehood in the West Bank, Gaza and East Jerusalem, territory Israel captured in the 1967 Middle East War. Israel considers them terrorists. The other four were captured in pairs a week ago near the Arab city Nazirat in northern Israel. All six have either been convicted or are suspected of planning or carrying out deadly attacks on Israelis. The Israeli military said the Palestinians hurled rocks and explosives towards Israeli troops and shot live fire as the troops exited the city. There was no immediate comment from the Palestinian Authority, which exercises limited self-rule in the West Bank and coordinates with Israel on security in the territory. The six Palestinians who broke out free on September 6 had tunneled a hole through their prison cell. Israeli officials say they will investigate any lapses that allowed their escape.
Moving on to Japan, where chopsticks has been used by many Japanese people for more than thousands of years, and it is a basic necessity in Japanese culture. Now children are gaining a new experience and enjoy while using chopsticks to eating their meals in this kindergarten. And people in Japan preserves vintage motorcycles. Have a look.
These vintage motorcycle collectors in Ichinomiya city of Aichi Prefecture are dedicated towards their passion for riding classic motorcycles. Though they are uncomfortable to ride and less safe than modern bikes, love for these vintage items does not go down a bit. All the maintenance and repair work of these bikes are done at home garage, largely because majority of these motorcycle manufacturers have already withdrawn from business or have closed down. As a result of this, replacement parts are no longer available. Thus, many parts of these bikes are made manually, and when the motorcycle needs repair, it may take months to fix it.
ヴィンテージのバイクばっかり持ってまして、うち4台が、プレワー、戦前のバイクになります。それで全て、動く状態にして乗ってます。僕は、周りの仲間の中ではメンテナンスが下手くそな苦手な人間で乗る方が好きな人間なんですけど、日本にいっぱい僕のような仲間同士がいるんで、自分の苦手なところはそういう他の子で助けてくれるサポートしてくれる子がいるんで、そういう子がやってくれて、逆に僕の得意なところは逆にサポートしたりとかって、お互いがサポートし合ってメンテナンスするっていう感じですね。
Only starting an engine involves a variety of operations, and the operations of these motorbikes depends on personal skills. These motorbikes escaped war requisition and have survived to the present day.
一番大変なのは、アメリカのバイクですので、日本には部品がないですから、アメリカで部品を探して取り寄せて直すってところが一番難しいですね。で特にこの、インディアンの20年代はなかなかアメリカでも、パーツがなくてですね、直すのにちょっと苦労をするって形ですね。はい。
The collectors of these bikes say driving these bikes requires the use of all five senses, and their vehicles give them a different level of experience. People are surprised to see these rare motorbikes on the street, which are typically placed in museums. Chopstick has been used by people for more than 3,000 years in Japan. But in this kindergarten in Tokyo, there is a new experience for children who enjoy using them while eating their meals. The start of using chopstick in Japan is a mystery. Some people say it came from China, but Japanese people have perfected using it for many purposes and have even special culture and custom related to them. This company has been making handmade chopstick for over 100 years, and they have good advice about how to choose the best chopstick size to fit the hand.
日本では、この手を広げて親指と人差し指を直角に曲げてこの直線距離これを日本では1アという単位で呼びます。これの 1.5 倍1ア半が一番その人の手の大きさに使いやすいサイズだというふうに言われています。
There are many shapes and designs for chopsticks, and it is up to the customer to choose the one that matches their taste and feel. There is also a special foldable set of chopstick.
ウィンザーホテル。こちらは日本で開催された G7、G20 で日本政府から海外からいらした首相や大統領にプレゼントをしたお箸です。このように名前を入れてその各国の首脳の方にプレゼントをしました。例えばこれはイギリスの首相であったキャメロン首相にプレゼントをされたものでございます。
Another interesting thing about these chopsticks is that it is made by recycled baseball bat. And to promote the use of chopstick culture, there is a special association of chopstick teacher who visits school to teach children the right way to use it. As they are part of Japanese culture, an important item to enjoy Japanese traditional food and cuisine washoku.
箸文化協会が箸検定っていうのをしていますね。それは箸の持ち方だけをやるのではなくて、箸の文化だったりとかマナーだったりっていうことも、試験には出したり、講義をして資格として与えています。
Chopstick in Japan is used in many ways, like to catch, cut, or scoop. Many countries are interested in learning about Japanese chopstick culture and their unique usage.
Moving on, Hindus in Nepal celebrate the true spirit of life through several unique festivals and rituals every year. These festivals are a reflection of country's glorious heritage and diverse culture and traditions. One such ritual is Kumari Puja, where pre-adolescent girls are worshipped as goddesses to ward off evil. Have a look.
A boundless Hindu culture is manifested in forms and rituals that are not just aesthetically astounding, but reflect an entrenched value system that respects and treats everybody equally. The same system has defined a unique place of children in the society, and they are considered incarnations of gods. Whether it is India or Nepal, a girl child is worshipped on several occasions across the year. Kumari Puja is one such occasion where pre-adolescent girls are revered and celebrated as deities. Donned in red robes, jewelry, elaborate accessories, and tattooed with traditional colors, these pre-adolescent girls, who are considered goddess Durga, are worshipped to mark the festival of Kumari Puja. The tradition is believed to ward off bad luck, diseases, and evil forces.
जुन हामीले प्रार्थना गर्छौं भगवानसँग कि यो बच्चालाई केही पनि नहोस्, कसैको आँखा नलाओस्, रोग व्याधि नहोस् हामी कामना गर्छौं। त्यसको साथै हामी पनि कामना गरिरहेका हुन्छौं। र यो कुमारी पूजा भनेको तीन विधिले हुन्छ। हिन्दू, बुद्धिस्ट, तान्त्रिक तीन विधिले यो कुमारी पूजा हुन्छ। र यो कुमारी पूजा गर्नाले चाहिँ यो कुमारी पूजा गराएका बच्चाहरूलाई कुनै पनि रोग व्याधि लाग्दैन।
Usually, the girls under 7 years of age participate in the tradition, for they are believed to be the earthly incarnations of divine feminine energy and manifestations of the goddess Taleju, the Nepalese name for Hindu goddess Durga. The ritualistic tradition is held annually in the Himalayan nation and is the main significance among its Newari community. During this 8-day-long festival, a young Newari girl is chosen to represent the goddess Kumari as an incarnation of goddess Taleju, the tutelary deity of the Malla dynasty and the Shah dynasty, which inherited the tradition. Now a popular tradition, the festival is witnessed by a number of people from around the country every year.
एकदमै राम्रो लाग्यो फर्स्ट टाइम हेरेको थियौँ अनि त्यसपछि आफ्नै अब हुन्छ नि हाम्रो नेपालको त यस्तो राम्रो परम्परा छ हैन आफ्नै अगाडि आँखा अगाडि भगवानलाई मानिन्छ अनि त्यो हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ राम्रो लाग्यो त्यही हो
The ancient tradition originates from a local legend, according to which a king, while playing with goddess Thaliju, started lusting on her. His conduct offended the goddess, who cursed him with diseases and bad luck to befall his kingdom. After request, the goddess instructed that bad luck can be avoided if the king worships prepubescent girls in her form and respects them. The tradition continues to date as a part of this legend.
It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Yeshi signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.